Good morning, friends.
How we doing?
Parker and I are headed off to a very cool destination today. Someplace that I have never been. I've wanted to go for a long time. Parker's been there. A long time ago, right?
It's been a little bit, you know, a staple of Tennessee. Cades Cove has been around for a while. Really cool place.
Yeah, Cades Cove. Glad you're here.
Yeah, ready to do it.
First is a coffee stop.
They
Creamer.
have a large decaf
Some creamer.
with some cream.
After passing a few small towns, many gift shops, we come to the entrance of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Right past this is the entrance to Cades Cove. Back in the early 1800s, people started moving to this area, pioneering this, and what's left are some of the structures from that community. I'm looking forward to this very much. I'm glad you're here, friends. Let's go check it out. Only $1. Cool. This is the honor system here. Oops. Make sure we put our dollar in and take a guide. Oh, they're really packed in there. Okay. Sweet. And a trail map. Why not? Some information here on this placard about bears. Be aware of the bears. It's park rules and a map just about where we're at. You see here the red dashes, that's where we are. All along this 11-mile loop are over 80 buildings that remain from the community that lived here. The one that we're going to walk to first is the John Oliver cabin. John and Lorena Oliver came here in the early 1820s. This cabin was built somewhere in the mid 1820s. It's the oldest of all the log homes in the whole loop of Cades Cove. Going off course a little bit, we heard some turkeys. Those are huge turkeys. Wow. Hey, you turkey. Guess it's not Lorena. Lucreta. What a view. Oh, cool. You can see where people have written their names all over the place in here over the years. This is the largest of the cabins. This is pretty big up here. At the time, it was traditional for the ladies to sleep down here, and then the men would sleep upstairs. The children, when their boys were very young, they would sleep down here with their mom. But this is probably how the setup was, but it's not certain with John and Lucreta. But this is their home. Pretty neat. Oh, there's a hatch. Wonder what's under there. Yeah, they make it pretty convenient for people to visit this cabin, and I assume it's like that. The rest of the buildings on the park, they have a paved area where you can walk on this trail. Back in the early 1820s, a fella named J.D. McCampbell, a blacksmith, built this church in 115 days for $115. Well, it wasn't exactly this church. It was a church that sat in this spot before this one was built in 1902. Let's go check it out. J.D. McCampbell wasn't just the blacksmith, he also was the minister here at this Methodist Church for many years. I was never much of a piano player, dabbled. This Methodist church was different than a lot of Methodist churches at the time because they allowed men and women to sit together in this church, where most Methodist churches at the time made men sit on one side and women on another. This one did not do that. I think it's pretty cool. Look how that threshold's worn down. Cool. It's been a while since I've taken the time to walk through a graveyard or cemetery. This is pretty nice. I've never been to one where you had to stay on the path though. So I'd like to go check out some of these graves up close and read the names. I'd like to pay my respects that way. But this is cool. Beautiful day for checking out this Cades Cove, huh? Back in the 1930s, the Civilian Conservation Corps came out here and was building trails, and they wanted to leave their mark, so they left a bunch of daffodils that read Co for company 5427, because they were company 5427, and this is what's left of it. A bunch of daffodils that, well, can't really read anything it says, but they're pretty. There was one church that we passed on the trail. We had to take a side road and missed it, and it's a loop and you can only go one way, so you might hit it on the way back, but probably not. It's the oldest church on the whole property of Cades Cove. It's the Primitive Baptist Church. Well, members of the Primitive Baptist Church broke away in 1839 and formed this church. Not exactly this building. This building was built a little bit later, in the early 1900s, but this is where the missionary Baptists met up. Missionary Baptists were just Baptists that preferred missionary work. That's it. So they broke away, formed this church, and one interesting thing I learned was that during the Civil War, they didn't meet, but they reformed after the Civil War without anybody that had Confederate ties, or sympathizers, they called them. So you had to be a fan of the Union to attend church here. Not so cool. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but you're going to church. It really shouldn't be about politics, right? Anyway, let's go in and see. This is about the size of the church that I grew up going to in Ohio. A little farm town called London. Some of you are watching this that are there, I know it. And this is about it. It's about the same size. Cool. It reminds me of home. I'll accept the kicking people out for what they believe kind of thing, but otherwise the church reminds me of home. And the graveyard attached. This is a really peaceful place. A lot of cars entering the park. Don't ride a bike here, at least on this hill. You're gonna go front face forward and wreck yourself. It seems pretty mild of a hill to me. You can walk though, anywhere you want. We gotta do some climbing to get up here. There's really nothing to see. Just cool to be up here. A lot of old barnwood. This is an amazing collection of wood. It's just amazing. These are not small pieces. You don't see this milled like this very much anymore. You can if it's a specialty lumber company, but not often. There's a lot here. I wonder if they disassembled a whole barn and this is where they're keeping it or something. It's crazy. There's saw marks back and forth. I love old barns. It's just something cool about the history. Thinking of all the work that was done in there, and it's cool. In 1824, John Oliver had a son, Elijah. Elijah grew up, got married, built this cabin. Looks like Elijah did pretty well for himself. Well, a pretty large homestead for his family. And not having farm equipment like we know of today, they had horses and manpower. It wasn't just the house on the homestead, it was a corn crib and a couple other buildings. Maybe for a light to hang on. That's probably what it was. Well, entering the upstairs is not possible today. That's too bad. Back in the smaller part, you can see up in the loft because it's very small, it's very short. I can touch the ceiling with my head. Again, a lot of graffiti has been etched into the wood over the years. I do open all the doors that I can and explore into places that I probably shouldn't sometimes, but I'm very respectful. And I would never carve my name into something that I shouldn't. There are things that you can carve your name into. I can't think of one right now, but there are, I'm pretty sure. But one of those things should not be the cabin walls of Elijah Oliver. During that last shot, I noticed this tiny door to the house. Screwed shut. It's down here. Just the underbelly of the house. Little crawl space. There's a lot of history in this cabin. It's one of the oldest structures here. It's a beautiful plot of land, isn't it? I wouldn't mind waking up to this every day. Sawmills didn't exist here in Cades Cove until the late 1800s, early 1900s. So you have a lot of these log structures. So not only do you have to build your own home, you have to build your own corn crib over here and storage or whatever they use this for. They usually have like a meat house where they dry meats in and such. I think that might have been something like that over there. But there's a lot of work involved in this homesteading. I appreciate the history here. You can almost picture the animals in here and maybe hay, whatever they were storing. Just imagination kicking in, thinking about the family living on this property, what it must have been like. Chip by chip by chip, that is a lot of work. Parker and I are gearing up for a little side trip. We're gonna go to a place called Abrams Falls. It's a couple-mile hike into the woods. It'll be nice. It's turning out to be a beautiful day. 2.5 miles.
Let's do it.
What? Well, I know what it's not. Maybe it is. On all my hikes, I've never seen a trail counter. That was pretty cool. Thanks to some other hikers that told us we're at the halfway point here. This very rocky area with a sharp turn, halfway to the falls. This is certainly not the easiest hike. You have to really want to get out there to get out there. But it's beautiful. There's moss and fern, and the views out here are amazing. Falls are definitely worth the hour-and-a-half stroll down this trail. Check this out. What caused that? What a trip. Abrams Falls Trail to the Waterfalls was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Great views.
Yeah, great views. Moderate? Did you say moderate?
Not too bad. There's some elevation inside of there. About 2.5 miles, so have some good shoes.
Yeah.
You know, maybe bring some water along with you.
Yep. Unfortunately, the only bear we saw was the one on my t-shirt.
Yeah.
We're still going to be in the park for a little bit longer, so our chances are still there to see a bear. Well, here's the welcome center to Cades Cove. It's about halfway through the scenic route, the scenic loop. And fortunately, friends, I have brought my National Parks passport book, and they have a stamp up here, so we get to stamp the book. I love stamping the passport book. Also love these gift shops and welcome centers, but unfortunately, I did not remember my mask, so I'm not allowed to go in this federal building. I'll give you a little peek. We have postcards, books, and toys, and paraphernalia. I apologize for my forgetfulness, friends. That would have been a cool little shop to check out, but there will be more. This grist mill back here is on its original foundation. It's the only building of this park area by the Welcome Center that is on its original foundation. The rest of these buildings were brought from different parts of Cades Cove to this little park. It's cool. Let's go check out these buildings. Well, that's a bummer, but that's okay. There's a whole house and some other buildings here we can check out. Becky Table House. It's not possible to see the upstairs. They have that area blocked off, but it's cool to see how people lived in this area. Interesting structure. Parker was just telling me that these dovetail joints were put in here to divert water away easier than a traditional just square style. I wondered how you got up in the top part. Looks like this is the only way and it's sealed off. This door is totally worn down from hundreds, thousands of people opening and closing it over the years. This is the home of Dan Lawson, mid-1800s, 1856, I believe. He came here and built the original part of this house, then added on over the years. I hear it's pretty cool inside. Let's go take a look, shall we? Okay. Oh, cool. Little hideaway room. Steps are tiny. Little back porch area. Shelter. Another example of that dovetail design. Looks as though the roof has been blown off and is in restoration right now. It's had some problems. The booklet that I bought when we first pulled into the loop is very informational. It tells you about each one of these buildings, gives you some history on the people that live there, and some other facts about this area. It's a really good way to spend a day with your family and hike around some of the trails that are here like we did. We saw a lot of kids on that trail. It's surprising because, well, it's not very easy to get all the way down there to the end, and it took about 2 hours at least, maybe a little bit over. But great way to spend a day with your family, learn some history, and get some exercise. What an interesting design, huh? Throughout the entire scenic loop, there are pull-offs where these buildings are, where you can get out of your car and wander around, check them out. I think it's pretty cool. As I said earlier, there's more than 80 buildings out here that you can wander through. Well, friends, this has been a 6-hour adventure into Cades Cove and Abrams Falls. Thanks for telling me about this, man. This was really cool.
It's a great time, you know.
Yeah.
One of those things you definitely got to put on the bucket list when you're out here.
Yeah, definitely. If you're out here in the Great Smoky Mountains, put Cades Cove on your list of things to do. There's some other great trails around the park, but this is a really special part, historically preserved, for us to check out. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. A little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah. And it's a busy day. You can hear the traffic behind me. There's a lot of people come out here. They estimate 2 million people of the 16 million that visit the national park come out here to Cades Cove every year. So be prepared for some slow speeds and mark off a couple hours of your day. It'll be cool. I promise you, you won't regret it. Friends, thanks for joining us. We're on to other adventures, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you guys.